The Boston Celtics' next trade target has been revealed, as a new report has an ambitious trade having the Celtics going out and getting this young 24-year-old center to add to their roster. We talk about him and the latest surrounding news about the Celtics right here, right now on Celtics Digest. Welcome everybody, I'm Jace Andrews. I appreciate you tuning in to today's show. Happy preseason opening day for the Boston Celtics. And with that being said, if you're looking for coverage throughout the 2025-2026 NBA season around the Boston Celtics, we've got you covered here on the channel. So make sure you go down there, hit that subscribe button as it is 100% free. The Bleacher Report News Press has released an article talking about one ambitious trade target for every team during the 2025-26 NBA season. And let's just say the Celtics have one that we have talked about here on today's show. We've talked about him in previous shows as well. That, of course, is Walker Kessler of the Utah Jazz. Now, Kessler, just 24 years old, a big man that could really help out the Celtics, who right now a lot of media representatives don't believe the Celtics have a true center. It's Neemias Queta, and the Celtics really do like him, but outside of Boston, there isn't a, let's say, high percentage value of Neemias Queta and the way that he would be able to perform at his center duties. With this all being said, I do think it's interesting to take a look at Kessler because he actually is a very good fit with Boston, and I like a lot of what he brings. So let's talk about the report here. We go to it, Greg Schwartz of Bleacher Report, who says, quote, "The Utah Jazz have yet to commit to Walker Kessler, as the 24-year-old center is admittedly frustrated that he hasn't been given a contract extension yet," end quote. Couple of things that I like about Walker Kessler, and certainly one that I think makes the most sense for the Celtics, is that he is looking for a contract extension. The Boston Celtics, in a way, are trying to look to grow their team and have a good front court to surround Jaylen Brown and Jayson Tatum for the next however long. Walker Kessler is a guy with center ability that can play in a power forward style center. I think in some aspects you like to give him a contract that could keep him around for a little while, but that is the only way this trade works in some aspects, because if you're not willing to keep him around, then I don't think there's a point about going out and getting him. Continuing on with the report here, Greg Schwartz once again says, quote, "If Utah is willing to move on from another premier shot blocker, the Boston Celtics desperately need a new starting center and should make a call," end quote. That's where I kind of question the desperately need a call, because all reports surrounding the Boston Celtics inside the organization, from Joe Mazzulla, Brad Stevens, even media in the Boston area, say that Neemias Queta is very, very high valued in terms of the way the Celtics see him. The rest of the NBA does not see that. The rest of the NBA believes that the Boston Celtics are in need of a center and need one pretty decently. And I do, however, think that it would be a very good thing to get a guy like Walker Kessler. But if you look at this depth chart right now, the two centers that you really trust, Neemias Queta, and Chris Boucher. Boucher, though, I think in some aspects is going to play a lot more of the power forward than people realize, specifically on the fact that Sam Hauser playing at the 4 doesn't spark my interest as much as I think him playing in a different way. I think moving Jaylen Brown to the shooting guard when you can, moving Sam Hauser to the small forward makes a lot more sense. But because of right now having Anthony Simons, Derrick White, and Peyton Pritchard, not to mention Baylor Shireman, you kind of look at this and say, okay, without Tatum, you need Brown to play the 3 in some aspects, because you need that 3 to be a solid one, because that's what you've gotten from Jayson Tatum for the past however long at this point, 7-8 years. For Sam Hauser, though, he plays a better small forward than power forward. So that's where, if you get Kessler, you can kind of make this a lot bigger of a team and still have that fast-moving pace that the Boston Celtics have kind of enjoyed to have over the past couple of years. Somewhat even make it a little faster. I mean, Kessler is going to be way more agile and mobile than Kristaps Porziņģis or Al Horford was in the past couple of years. But still, Luke Garza is also an option at that center position. It's just 3 guys that I have questions about is the biggest thing for me. So talking more about Walker Kessler, what exactly does he do? Why is he a guy that we like? Well, let's start by looking at the stats. At just 24 years old, and again, he just turned 24, 30 minutes per game, and has a double-double average with points and rebounds. Don't need to worry about assists too much, especially for the Boston Celtics and their centers. We know that Al Horford was able to pass the ball around, and that was great. But I think with the new form Celtics, you're really expecting your center to be a true center in some aspects, but be able to run that kind of down low, big power forward wing type defense as well. And Walker Kessler can do that. Field goal percentage is great, 663, actually one of the best field goal percentages in really the entire NBA. He does not shoot the three, which I think if you're making this trade, you're making the commitment to say, okay, Jaylen Brown, Jayson Tatum, Peyton Pritchard, Derrick White, you're our future. Walker Kessler's going to play the center. He's going to be the guy to get down low, make space down low, allow for drives to the basket for Brown and Tatum. And I think Kessler at 7 foot would be the perfect kind of addition to this squad. Now, again, the expectations for Neemias Queta are higher in Boston than anywhere else. So if the Celtics somewhat get off to a slow start with Queta, and I know that record is what it's going to be, whatever, you need to look at specific players and how they play, because by all accounts, the Eastern Conference is going to be bad. It's not going to be good. If you are able to make this a competitive team and get Jayson Tatum back in March, you can make a run in the playoffs. Secondly, I think in whatever way you put it, you can go to the playoffs. You can do a lot this season. But I think the biggest thing is you have to make sure that this team is going to be championship caliber next year. Next year is where you got to think, okay, we want to be back to that championship caliber level. So that's something that would be a bit of a point for me. So that was his stats from last year. That was obviously his best year in his career throughout 3 seasons in the National Basketball Association. 8.1 points in the 2022-24 season, 9.2 points in the 2022-2023 season. Has always been a good rebounder, but this past year was an excelling point of his game. 64 games, by the way, in 2023-24, so that is a little bit, but only played 58 in this past year. Little injuries. I mean, 7 foot tall, sometimes you just need to take a break, especially with the way your legs and kind of mobile movement is when you're that tall. Let's talk a little bit more about kind of why exactly the money works. I think is a big thing too, because we know the Celtics, they want to get under that first apron. At least that would be the hope. I think at this point they're kind of content with saying, okay, we're under the second apron. That's good enough, I guess, is probably the best way to put it. But still, I think they can have the addition of Walker Kessler and still be able to get under that first apron. So here's another quote from Greg Schwartz saying, Boston needs a new starting center and won't want to break the bank after shedding so much salary this past offseason. Kessler's $4.8 million salary would be easy to match, end quote. If this trade were to be able to occur before the start of the season, try and get under that first apron, I think it would help a little bit, but at the same idea, I'm looking at this trade from a more of an in-season perspective, because specifically, like I said, if Queta does not pan out, I guess, whatever the right word you want to do, then you can go out and make this trade and you can be able to, bring him in. Now, I know the question is, what exactly is a trade looking like? Well, I could only find one that truly worked. I'm not sure that I'm in love with this trade, but it's not a bad one. Neemias Queta, Sam Hauser, a first-round pick in 2026, a second-round pick in 2026, and a second-round pick back in 2031. I think you could give less, and especially in season, and receive Kessler. Queta and Hauser, I think, probably have to be in this deal. Or at least Queta, and maybe you can put Baylor Shireman in here just because he is in that second year. Maybe he performs well, and if you don't feel like you need him because you're going to have Tatum back, there's a potential for that. But either way, it's an interesting trade dynamic to do all of this. So he'd fit well. And then kind of one thing I wanted to implement with this last part, from PFSN, Samuel Kadula said, quote, Kessler is just 24 years old, and he fits the Celtics' long-term timeline. That's a big thing. The 7-foot-tall player is among the best young rim protectors in the league, so pairing him with Tatum and Brown would give Boston a new defensive core capable of contending for years, end quote. That's my biggest thought when I look at the Boston Celtics now, because we had the super team. We did what we needed to do. We got the championship. I think if things go the right way this past year, if Kristaps Porziņģis doesn't come down with whatever sickness he had through the entire year, if Jrue Holiday maybe looks a little better, if the injury doesn't happen to Jayson Tatum, there's a lot of ifs and buts. It's really hard to repeat in this league. The focus now is to contend for the rest of Jayson Tatum and Jaylen Brown's career. You want to keep them together. That's the plan. That seems like that's the way Brad Stevens wants it to be. In that case scenario, the hope is for the next 3 years, you're going to have Derrick White, Peyton Pritchard, Jaylen Brown, Jayson Tatum, and then get a center if Kata does not work out, which I truly don't see him as a long-term solution at center. Kessler, I see as a long-term solution. You can give some of that money to him. I think there is a way to keep under the second apron. You might stay above that first apron, but again, the Celtics did have a change of ownership in a light, so I think there is some more money being moved around than maybe we think. I would highly expect this team to be very aggressive throughout the season, especially if the Eastern Conference looks in the way that I think it will. And on top of which, if you think about the way that the Boston Celtics have the potential to bring back literally one of, if not, I would say, the best player in the NBA in Jayson Tatum and put him on the court in March going for a playoff run, I think that'd be a very good time to do that. So let me know your thoughts in the comment section. Is this a trade you'd think you'd make? Is Walker Kessler a guy that you'd like to see on the Celtics? What are your thoughts? All in the comment section, but we appreciate you, and we'll see you next time here on the show. Peace out, guys.